Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gabriel Avăcăriți. I'm Chief Editor with Energynomics. I will be the host for the next hours here on the energy stage inside the Green Energy and the Romanian Tech Fair this year. I will say a couple of words in Romanian and then I will switch to English for the first part of the meeting. Mai întâi mulțumiri din tot sufletul organizatorilor care încă o dată ne-au permis să avem acest spațiu pentru Energynomics și pentru dumneavoastră, pentru a scoate la iveală, pentru a provoca câteva discuții relevante din perspectiva pieței de energie, așa cum le vedem noi și comunitatea Energynomics. Am ales ca în orele care urmează să alocăm aproximativ o oră pentru lansarea celei de-a doua ediție a raportului Energynomics privind piața de fotovoltaice. Prima a fost lansată în martie 2024, urmând ca după aceea, pe parcursul următoarelor ore, să avem 6, 7, poate mai multe interviuri de 15-20 de minute, fiecare pe câte o temă anume. Am încercat să selectăm temele și interlocutorii astfel încât să fie cât mai aproape de tematica generală a expoziției din acest an. Ca urmare veți regăsi teme care au legătură nu doar cu producția de energie din surse regenerabile în general, dar și despre prosumatori în bună măsură, despre comunități energetice. Asta e ce urmează să se întâmple în orele următoare. În prima secțiune, această prezentare a raportului, voi avea alături de mine 3, poate chiar 4 interlocutori, alături de care voi încerca să scoatem mai multe la suprafață în ceea ce privește piața de fotovoltaice din România. I will switch to English now because one of the partners of dialogue in the next hour is Loukas, Botsis, Senior Manager Baringa. So I will use English and our guest also accepted this request to speak in English for the next hour so that our guests from abroad to feel as comfortable as possible. My main role for the next 10 minutes is to select a couple of ideas resulted after our second endeavor, our second series of investigation into the Romanian photovoltaic markets. I please the first slides. Here is the report. It will be published and available for free in Energynomics website, starting by Monday next week. For you who registered for this meeting, the PDF will be available today. So this is one perk of being here with us today. Thank you very much for taking the time. This is the cover, and it is the first time when I mentioned the name of our partner, Electra Renewable Support, our only partner at this moment for the report this year. Here is the summary, and just like we had 2 years ago, we have one intervention from Zoltán Nagy-Bege, Director of Energy Markets with Ciga Energy Advisory, talking about the situation at this moment. The rest of the chapters are presenting a distilled perspective on the data. And I will say a couple of words in a minute. So 30 pages, I think, with 20 or so visualization. And here is the spine of the enterprise we made. This is the project maturity rating. This is the background on which we position each of the projects we got access to. So we noted each of the projects we analyzed from 1 to 10 in terms of how close they are to completion, to entering into operation. 1 means concept and early screening, so free ATR. 2, grid connection permit issued, and so on. Grid connection agreement signed, securing establishment authorization, and so on until the position number 9, when we have the asset in operation and producing electricity, generating money. We also have the 10th position, which is reserved for decommissioning and recycling. At the moment, in our knowledge in Romania, is one project which already entered this stage. and finalized, in fact, the repowering is one run by Parapet last year. George, please, the next slide. You will have the time to check it and explore in how respect it is a solid approach and a solid methodology. For the next minutes, I will present 5 ideas out of this report, and I selected them as a starting point for the conversation to begin immediately. Here we have the presentation. 1,124 projects are in our database at the moment. Where do they come from? Especially our primary sources are the Excel files provided each month by the TSO and by the DSOs. Our effort consisted mainly in normalizing the data, cleaning the data, and eliminating duplicates and so on. And we reached to this number of projects in PV sector alone. In total, we have 58.5 gigawatts in capacity. Please keep in mind that we are talking about projects above 5 megawatts each, intending to operate as for injection into the grid. So we ignore the smaller ones. And also we have here the projects in operation at the moment. This is one important difference from the edition 2 years ago. The first idea, as we all know already, capacity is massive, but delivery is stalled in early stages. In the right side of the slide, you see the how the projects are positioned on the stages. 1 and 2, they are the most populated stages. 66% of the projects are in these very early stages. And only 2% are in late stage delivery, 8, 9. So continuity this year, like in the years before, is the core challenge is moving projects to grid permitting and execution gates, because most of them are in the early ones. The next idea is that mega projects are very important. There are 59 projects above 200 megawatts, and they in total count for 32.9% of the total capacity, 19.2 gigawatts. None of these mega projects are in advanced stages. Most of them, as you see on the visualization, are on the second stage at the moment. It is true there are some of them who are advancing very fast, and we're expecting the next months to have them in construction phase already. But at the moment, and this is January 2026, this is how the data looked. Here is some information about when this project will be online, live and operating. And we have this heat map here. We'll start for 2024, 2025, and so on. You probably see here 2025, and you are wondering, what the heck? We are in 2026 already. These are the information in the official data. So projects in the Excels from Transelectrica and from DSOs show the projects with data, date for commissioning 2025. 11.2 gigawatts from this year, and 8 gigawatts planned from 2027. What we know already from previous years is that the timelines typically shift right. So all the deadlines are moving into the future. This is one indication we should keep in mind when we are analyzing this data. Also, what we have here is not only the number of the project, but also the size, and we see some large projects scattered here in 2027, for example. We will come back to the COD topic in a minute. Another important result of the study is related to the geographic concentration. There are 5 counties in Romania accounting for 40% of the total capacity on paper at the moment, also in operation. Arad, Timiș, Dolj, Bihor, Giurgiu, each of them with at least 4 mega projects, which is above 200 megawatts. And this is one of the topics I would like to explore with my guest today. What makes those counties special? Is this only the solarization? I don't think so. It is maybe the behavior of the local authorities or other topics, maybe the grid nodes and the accessibility to grid, we'll see. We prepare for September this year a similar report on storage and one on wind. But I selected one slide for this conversation today because I consider it important. We have 24.46 gigawatts in best capacity at the moment in January 2026. Almost all of them are in stages 1 or 2, in second stage. Very, very few capacities are in operation, are in developing, in construction at the moment. What I think is important is that solar maturity is outpacing storage, and the fact that we have not enough storage operating, in fact, delays the installation of solar, of new solar capacity. If the dynamic in the BESS segment will be more faster than we saw in recent years in the solar, this will most probably help the future of the solar projects too. And I will end with this slide. First of all, 265 of the projects we have in our database do not have PIF or COD. This is also coming from the primary sources. When we had the additional information, we completed, but still. It's a large number compared to 1,124. Still, what we see here is that the total capacity is rather small. So there are many projects, small projects, which have no COD dates available at the moment. And the second one, and this is more related with our plans for the future, is that what we have at the moment in the database is a company, as SPV. These, in general, do not allow us to say who is the decision maker behind that project. So we have no owner attribution, and despite our efforts in 58% of the cases, we do not have this information. But this is something that we are working on, and most probably in September, this number will look much better. Why we need this? We need this because I, as a chief editor, I would like to write an article to say these are the first 10 most important players in the PV sector in Romania, because they have those projects with this accumulated capacity and so on. I cannot do this at the moment, in fair mind. I can only say something, here are some of the most important players, and we probably will write something like this. But it is also important for some of you who came to us and asked us, how much should we pay in order to have your database? I am not quite satisfied with the database in order to say, okay, take it for this amount of money, because it is not good enough. We are working on it. And also, what we can do at the moment is to offer you a selection based on your interest. If you are interested in projects between 30 and 50 megawatts, situated in the northern part of Romania, we can make this selection and we can sell it for you. So this we can do. For the rest, hopefully near the end of the year, we'll be in a better position. Okay, this is the general presentation, and these are the promises. You will have access to the PDF very soon, and we will keep you informed during the next months. Now I invite on the stage the guest for today, Zoltán Nagy-Bege. Thank you very much, Zoltán, for being with us once again, and for writing the introduction for this report this year. Loukas, Botsis, Senior Manager, Baringa. Thank you. We are very happy to have Loukas with us and share some ideas on the regional perspective and maybe a bird view on the Romanian market too. Martin Moise, Vice President PATRES, is also with us. Thank you very much. Martin is very knowledgeable in his capacity as a Vice President of the association, please, but also in his capacity as owner and operator of important assets in Romania. We are expecting Sebastian Enache, Head of M&A with Monsson, who hopefully will be in the position to tell us more about the development side. As soon as he'll be here, I will invite him on the stage. Thank you. And my voice is fading, so Zoltán, please.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations for the launching of the second edition of the PV Monitor.
Thank you.
Just a few thoughts about the PV market, and one of the questions were raised regarding the PV market and the projects we have. And you've seen in the introduction that there are several PV projects in Romania, and trust me, there are several other technology projects as well on the market. And the question is their maturity. And we made an analysis regarding the maturity of those projects, and one of the conclusions we have is that the full picture of mature project is not anymore given by the permits, because all those projects have different permits. They have connection permit, maybe they have grid connection agreement, maybe a lot of them they have building permits. They have even establishment permits issued by the regulator, which means that technically they have secured the financing as well. But we have an example just a couple of weeks ago when Enache withdrawn an establishment permit because the final binding financing wasn't secured. So technically speaking, not even those, and I think there are about 7 gigawatts of projects in total, not just PV, every technology in Romania with establishment permits, so theoretically with secured financing. But I would risk saying that not even those projects with establishment permit from the regulator cannot be considered mature, fully mature project. Because in the end, not just the megawatts are the one what counts, but the megawatt hours, and how those projects will be operated, how those projects will enter the market, what strategy they have, and how they gonna manage the new challenges we have in the market, because the market has changed drastically in the last couple of years, and it's in a continuous changing, and you need to adapt yourself technically and commercially to be able to deliver those megawatt hours, and not just delivers, because not just volumes are counting, it counts as well the moment when you are delivering, especially for PV. Probably PV is the most exposed to that, and it's the most obvious that when those PV projects can produce, when they are producing values, and when they are exposed to the market.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's obvious that our initiative came a little bit late into the market. It was necessary much faster, much earlier in time. And the situation in the markets, I will challenge you to speak about a little bit more about what the situation in the market is that makes the concretization, the construction of the projects less sure than. So a lot of things change, but I think that this might be a good start in order to bring a next level of information on the projects, so that at some moment in time, I don't know, maybe next spring, to talk with a little bit more confidence about this list of projects which will be delivered more or less in time. So hopefully that would be the case. Martin, please tell us a few words about how you see the market at the moment in the PV sector.
Hi, and thank you very much for the invitation. Let's start with saying that yes, indeed, we see gigawatts and gigawatts and gigawatts of various projects in various stages. But that's only one side. That's the production side. I think we need to take a look at the consumption and the need that we have in the system. And if we look just right now, it's a spring day, early spring, and now the consumption, the total consumption of Romania is 5.5 gigawatts. That's it. And currently, the solar production, excluding prosumers and everything which is in that small range, or even in bigger range, but behind the meter, which we cannot see. So only PV parks production, let's call it like that, it's 2 gigawatts. If we would add up all the production that and self-consumption which is being done by prosumers, you will double this amount. So the fair question would be, what do you do with 70 gigawatts of projects? Nothing, because we don't need that much of projects, because there is no consumption for that. Secondly, we are now, let's say, in springtime, but last weekend there was still astrological winter, okay, the last weekend of February. And what happened on Saturday? We had negative prices in the middle of the day. What happened on Sunday? We had negative prices in the middle of the day. So from my perspective, I think that this year will be a big wake-up call, if you wish, for all investors and for all developers in all these projects to take a look at the need. And secondly, to take a look at the design of that project, because Zoltán was very right, not even the projects which have the establishment permit issued by ANRE will go live in production, because some of them are not realistical. If you don't put a storage in your PV plant, you will lose money. You will shut down the power plant every weekend. You will not have what to do with the energy. So I think that projects need to be redesigned, adapted to the need of the market. And I think that the real outcome of those 70-something gigawatts, which we see in ANRE's reports in projects with a grid connection permit, will be totally different.
Thank you. Welcome, Sebastian. Thank you for being us today. Before our discussion, as we planned on the new standards for wind industry, please a couple of words on the photovoltaic segment. I just presented earlier the results of our latest report on the PV market with many projects and over 50 gigawatts in capacity, most of them in the first 2 or 3 stages, a little bit better than 2 years ago, still in early stages, most of them. And 2 of our friends today talked about the very clear risk that many of those projects will not come to be constructed. They will not produce any energy. How do you see this? Please use your hat as a developer now.
Yes, hi everybody. Sorry to be late, but I love the traffic in Bucharest. So, yes, indeed, we have 2026 as a full picture about promises, about projects, and most of people looking at the energy sector in Romania say, okay, let's put the projects where the papers are. So indeed, we've had a lot of projects on the paper, but I think this is of course a year where we will not have the problem in the investor side. We will not have the problem in finding financing. We'll have a problem of bottlenecks in human resources, and I can tell you why. What we've seen from the association point of view, from the developer point of view, and from the service provider's point of view, this year alone we will have 4,000 to 5,000 megawatts to be starting construction March, April this year. Around 3,500 PV and 1,500 wind. It means that we have different regions, different contractors, different EPC contractors that will need to have around 5,000 to 6,000 people, new people, or at least people that finished projects and will start new projects, ready with the proper skills, hopefully locals, Romanians, yeah, qualified. You need to have equipment on site. You need to have thousands of piles. Yeah, so it will be a very complicated year from the logistic point of view, from the construction point of view. And yes, I can for sure say that these 3,000 to 4,500 megawatts have been already financed, have been already secured most of the equipment, but it's exactly the moment where you have an increase in the PV panel price of around 20 to 30% comparing with last year in October. You have the time when everybody needs to work at the same time, to use the same roads, to use the same shipment corridors. So from the logistic point of view, I think it would be a struggle to make the projects not only start, but also construction, from the construction point of view. So yes, a lot of projects will maybe not be realized, but it's from the point of view of the maybe not very serious developers, or maybe not maybe investors that haven't passed the investment yes or no decision. But these are small projects, 20, 30, 50, 80. What we see is that the big projects, PPC, Resolve, Scatec, Energy, over 1, 2, 3, 500, 1,000 megawatts will be built, will start construction in April, June this year. And for sure, the wind business will not have any bottlenecks. So the wind business, from my point of view, is secured because we have a lot of Romanian technicians installing wind turbines abroad, which will be happy to return in Romania, to install in Romania, and we have sufficient workforce for that, maybe an increase of around 25%. There is let's say there is no war between the builders, because the companies that build wind usually don't build PV, so it's not a struggle on this side. There is no struggle on machinery. They don't share cranes. They have different equipment that they use. So I don't see a problem between wind and PV. And PV will not have any bottlenecks from this point of view. PV will have bottlenecks from the human resource point of view. But again, sorry, Around 4,000 for sure will start construction this year.
8% of the numbers we accumulated earlier, but we will come back to the market because it seems the huge problem is there, although batteries might be a solution. Loukas, you heard something about the Romanian market. You probably did your homework already. Tell us how you see the Romanian PV market.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying, first of all, that we see the Romanian market, especially comparing to the European markets, like a market with huge potential. It's starting from a low point, and it has the political intention. We see a lot of policy supporting the market. But I agree with a lot of the points that were made. I think it's really important to consider all the risks that the markets are facing, especially around negative prices, especially what we see in globally, which and in the European level, which it's important to think that there will be some spillage in the Romanian market. We see pressure on carbon prices. We had Friedrich Merz making announcements around potentially decoupling the carbon price to the power price, and also we generally see pressure on gas price. I know now it's a bit outdated what I'm saying because of the intention in the Middle East, the tensions in the Middle East, but we don't see this as being another Russia. This pushes capture prices for solar PV. So we expect to see a shift towards more collocation and more storage to manage these risks. So I agree definitely with that point. The other point I would like to make, and I think if we see other markets and we see lessons learned from other markets, and especially about the geographic concentration that you mentioned, that's really important. And it's really important for the policy plans, the policymakers, to start having a holistic view of where demand, where infrastructure is located, and plan centrally. This is happening at a level, I believe, and understand. But if we look at the GB market, for example, where we had a lot of wind, for example, concentrating in Scotland, then we had huge balancing costs, pushing consumer bills, which again is pushing the net zero agenda, which can create more policy bumps and more political risks down the road. So I think it's really important to think holistically about these things, and it's a good time for Romania to think about these things. But overall, yeah, there is huge potential. There's definitely bumps along the road, but it's about thinking and pushing for the right project, thinking about collocation, and also the policy to make the right decision. And
how do you see Romania's efforts and moves towards reaching the targets for 2030 for the BNIESC and NCP? Are we on the right track as you see it?
Especially when it comes to solar, I think definitely Romania is on the right track. I think it's one of the markets that we see that the 2030 targets are realistic and can be achieved. We see that there is not enough storage in the NECP targets, and I think there needs to be more push towards storage projects. A lot of it is going to be collocation, which is very important. And another risk, I guess, that collocation can manage is that we generally don't see a lot of grid curtailment at the moment, but the policy framework, from our understanding, is not very clear around the compensation on grid and system curtailment. So I think collocating solar PV projects with solar, as solar increases in numbers, it will be very important to manage this risk as well.
Thank you. Zoltán, you talked about the new situation in the market and how this impacts the building of the PV projects. What is this new situation in the market?
First of all, projects who are not adapting their commercial strategy, their way of commercial operation, they will struggle get the financing. So their bankability is questioned, obviously, and for lenders, a pure merchant exposure is not anymore acceptable. So they want to be, they want to see a multi-market strategy for every project, especially for PV, which means that more sophisticated PPA, so a pure baseload PPA, it's out of question. I think profile-based PPAs are already requested by years for PV projects, and other more sophisticated models are requested. PPAs are requested by lenders in order to secure the bankability, and obviously having the comfort of a clear sustainable commercial strategy, they are willing to finance such projects, and obviously those projects who committed themselves to have sophisticated PPAs, I don't know, with some minimum or maximum prices, just to have some market exposure, but to limit the volatility. Those who are combining and having, I don't know, co-located batteries or contracted storage capacities, you don't need to have your own battery storage systems. You can contract from the market. Obviously, the battery market is still emergent, and we are expecting some growth on that. The problem of the storage market is pretty much the same financing. The commercial model, the operation of batteries, it's something new, not just in Romania but on the whole world. And convincing lenders to finance such projects, it's a challenge. What we've seen in Romania is so far that lenders are more open to accept, I don't know, for example, tolling agreements with large international players, traders, for example, although maybe some local companies with significant local knowledge, they have the better solutions to operate commercially and maybe technically as well such projects, but those are not really credible in front of especially in front of international financial companies, lenders. So so far what is acceptable and accepted by lenders, and seems that the market started to move, some tolling agreements from large trading companies, and hopefully step by step banks are open to understand the business model, to understand the revenue streams for BESS, because without BESS the market is going just on a one way, with more and more negative prices, as it was already presented, with the spreads between the I don't know, 11 to 4 p.m. hours and the baseload price, it's widening, which is exposing the not just the whole market, but even the consumers.
Thank you, Martin. So no PV project without BESS. It seems that everybody agrees on that today. Let's have PV with BESS. What is there to stop us?
Well, as usual, we have the problem of cannibalization, I would use this word, which is affecting very much already the PV market. That I want to make a remark: every 1 megawatt installed by prosumers means between 0.5 and 1 megawatt less to be constructed in a large power plant. This is the equation we need to take a look at, and the prosumer business is going further. We need to take a look not only at those gigawatts that we see in large projects, we need to take a look on what is installed on rooftops, on factories, on people's homes, on shopping malls, on parking lots or whatever, and it's a lot. Coming back, we have this cannibalization effect which is being seen in the grid connection permits. And from my perspective, it seems that most of the people, as Michael Burry said, in the financial crisis in 2008, are not reading the papers. So if you take a look in a grid connection permit, you will see there's various conditions and grid reinforcements which make many projects have a big question mark. Secondly, the scheme that we have in place, or we had in place over the last year, which is basically prioritizing grid connection in the terms of first come, first served, will take its toll, because we have various examples in PATRES of investors who own and operate successfully power plants since many years, and say, okay, now the time has come, because we see the prices, like today at 13 o'clock, we have 48 RON per megawatt. That's less than 10 euro today. Now it's the time to install a BESS system. And then they do the math, and they say, okay, if I do the BESS system with energy from my own production, then the amortization period is over 10 years. Because I don't have enough cycles to run that battery. And if we talk about system services and so on, the cannibalization effect is anyway huge. But then the investor says, okay, to make the battery feasible, I need to do a second cycle at least, to have 2 cycles per day, which means I need to make increase in my consumption from the grid, spor de putere, to make a cycle during the night or during the days where there is not enough energy coming from the sun to charge, let's say, the battery from the grid. And then they go to the grid operator, and the grid operator says, yes, we can give you that power, but you need to reinforce half of Transylvania to do that. It's a very practical example we are facing right now in many projects which cannot obtain this grid connection permit. Why? Because there are a lot of standalone BESS projects and a lot of hybrid projects which are on paper, are in theory amongst those 70 gigawatts, which will be never realized, but they do block the system. And then the investor goes to the bank and says, look, bank, I want you to give me some money to put the BESS system. The bank doesn't anyway really understand the BESS financial model, but it looks in the grid connection permit and says, look, but you have grid reinforcements for 2 times capex of your battery. I cannot give you the money because it's a too big risk. What do you do then? The investor usually, if he trusts the project, will put his own money if he has it, and bring the project to the end, and then refinance.
And go busted or not?
But some of them can do that, some of them can't.
But at the moment, if you invest your own money, is a good bet?
You know, like in every moment in the energy sector, I think the early players which have done this at an early stage will be the winners, and the ones which come at the end will be the losers.
But never knows where the finish line is. No?
That's, of course, a question, but the finish line is drawn by consumption, as I explained before, because in the end is a demand and supply thing, like in every market. You have a limited amount of demand. Okay, it will increase. Okay, we will electrify transport. Okay, we will have data centers, and IBM and Google and Apple and everyone will move to Romania. I don't know.
Let me move maybe for a more optimistic perspective to Sebastian. And my question is, the context is, everybody says that renewables are no cheaper than ever, and they are comparable in LCOE with other forms of other technologies. So, green energy, PV energy is cheaper. Romanians need cheap energy. We import each day significant amounts of energy. Why there is not a case for installing, for making these projects real projects in the field?
As the others said, there is always the chicken and the egg situation, and also where this chicken and egg live. So we live in Romania. That's one of...
we haven't crossed the street yet.
Exactly, one of the situations. Nevertheless, the system itself and the energy system in Romania has consumption and production. And the discussion here was focused on production and storage, but also consumption, it's important. Having the two cycles, having more energy, having more production, and having consumption, it's equally important. So because we are from the production industry, we focused on production. The government should have focused, or other businesses should have focused also on increasing the production. We were very lucky to have an increased transport and distribution capacity because also of the form of consumption that we have. And I think right now from the business model point of view, as I said previously, I think energy hubs that should be self-independent with consumption and production, prosumers and having consumption near production, it's production near consumption. It's the future, and introducing electrification. So yes, we cannot have unlimited production if we have consumption. We're trying to make the production work in a way while we don't have enough consumption. So it's a game on this side, and batteries are the ones supporting the production. Wait when the production will come and will be needed.
Okay. There is a short-term solution until we manage to electrify a little bit more, or maybe much more, the society at large.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Loukas, you saw the conundrum here in Romania, maybe 1 year, 2 years of investments and huge works in the ground, but then a little bit foggy. How do you see this compared with other markets? Have you seen something like it in other parts of the world? How did they evolve?
Yeah, I think it's what we're seeing across Europe. I think it's like you tend to see these bumps like negative price risk, etc. And I think in other markets you have CFDs that are more regular and support the schemes, so solar PV is not solely exposed to the market forces. There is still the negative price risk, of course, in most markets, but this is an option. But then this can push consumer bills, right? Unless it's financed by the EU or externally, this will pass on to consumer bills. So this can put in additional pressure. I think it's important the points that were made before around the grid and the batteries. It comes back to decentralized planning. I think leaving it to market forces alone sometimes. The market is really good in regulating prices, but when you're pursuing such a big transition, you need a bit more centralized planning, and we've seen it again in other markets, like in the GB, that they move to centralized planning. Where should the infrastructure be located? Where do we need it most? So I think it's important to take a step back from potentially the policy planners and the government to say, we need batteries there, we need solar there, we need network there, rather than charging the developer for the additional network required. But as I said, we still see the potential. We still see the potential in Romania, and we still see the political intention. Of course, yeah, there are challenges like every market, and yeah, market players need to navigate around those challenges.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Please, Martin.
I wanted to add up maybe one thing. In general, let's say the state has promoted standalone batteries, separated projects. Wind, one is the wind project, the other one is the solar projects, no hybrid projects. And I think this is a massive mistake that was made. Because in the end, grid connection capacity is limited. And why on earth should you spend double the money and compete in that when you can put it together? From my perspective, the prioritization should have been batteries installed in power plants, hybridization done in existing power plants. Where you have a wind farm, you should convert it to a mixed power plant, put the modules in there, use the same connection permit do not double the capex for the grid connection cost. It makes no sense. We just make the energy very expensive because we have a huge capex cost or a huge portion in the capex cost for grid connection, and this is not right.
It was not a very sophisticated perspective from the authorities, I can agree with that. But can the industry alone, the players in the market, do something in this respect?
Not with the help of authorities, because in the end you are stuck right now in this big problem of all these grid connection permits which legally exist and they have a legal right. So you cannot do a law tomorrow to say we cancel all the grid connection permits and we restart everything from zero. So it's a big challenge from my perspective to find the right solution to clean up the market. We have proposed several solutions to the authority, but it's, from my perspective, not moving in the right direction. But I think we have to find a way to clean up so that you, let's say, exclude all these useless costs which you put in infrastructure where you shouldn't sink the money in there. Use the resource efficiently. That's the point. It's the same if you look at PV investment. Where does it make sense to do the PV investment? On the field, transport it to the grid, or on the factory? It will be always better to do it on the factory because the business case will also be much better.
One last question from me, and maybe one question from the audience. In some months, maybe 1 year, 1.5 years, we'll have some significant new capacities of generating electricity from gas. What will that mean for the PV sector? Will it be helpful in terms of having some access to some electricity in, I don't know, at night or at the peak time? Or will it make it even harder for the PV units to get into the market with their megawatts hour?
First of all, we will have to deal with some shutdowns as well. Unit 1 from Chernobyl, the 700 megawatt that will miss from the market, and first of all, that will need to be replaced. And of course, the first source which can replace that it's the gas-fired power plant. But obviously, gas-fired power plants, and we see that there are a lot of projects in Romania, and expectedly a lot of projects in Romania on a smaller scale. We are not talking about Mintia with 1.8 gigawatts. We are talking about 50 megawatt, 100 megawatt, 150 megawatts. There are several projects in Romania, and there's a clear interest on that. And it's not surprising because we have the source. We have the sources,
and we have this need of flexibility and adaptability.
And those power plants will be able to compete on the balancing market, ancillary market, and if we will have, and probably we will be forced to have some kind of flexibility market, especially for the distribution networks. So I think it's natural to have a healthy mix. We need those gas power plants. We need the batteries. We need the PV. We need the wind as well. We might need some hydro as well. Maybe not the size of Travnica or such giant projects, but on a healthy scale. And probably we will have the market will shape the projects which are mature, bankable, viable, and obviously out of those 70,000 megawatts of projects in the different phases, and we need to add, and we don't have an exact figure yet because it's not public information. But due to the change of regulation, and you know that starting from 1st of January, the connection regulation changed drastically, and we will have a capacity allocation mechanism based on auction. But we have a we have a transition period, and those projects which submitted the solution study by the end of last year, they will be analyzed based on the old regulation, old
They
connection
will be
regulation.
processed in the next months.
And we don't know how many projects were submitted, how many projects had the solution study submitted by the end of last year. There are some rumors that we will double the existing issued ATR. So there are rumors that by the end of the year, for 60 or maybe 70 gigawatts of PV, wind, and storage, were submitted the solution study. Obviously, not all those projects are
Viable in
mature
any
and
way,
viable.
yeah.
Just like the existing 70 gigawatts, obviously they will not build. But we are expecting June, when Transelectrica will publish their general connection, the general solution study, and the available capacity in the grid. Obviously, until June, we will have some expired ATRs, some expired grid connection agreements, maybe some withdrawn establishment permits. So it's in a constant change, but we are in the period for the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 months when we're gonna be in a blur because there are no information from the market. We don't know exactly what to expect in June, but definitely there are a lot of projects to cover.
This is a great moment for an investor. You have to act fast and you can't see anything. Please.
I think so. I think we're missing out the main point. So, yes, it's good that we have 1,000 more projects than we need, because we can select out of those the best 5%. Better than to have 100 megawatts and be the worst or no technical solution. So I think it's good because it's a natural selection. The banks will not finance bad projects. It is what it is. The law said the first come, first served. So it was according to the law. It was a mechanism. Was it the good one, the bad one? It doesn't matter. We will have the achievability rate. It doesn't matter. We will have the best of the best. In a way. Yeah? But gas power plants made very well good sense until 6 days ago. Yes? The point is that solar capex, it's managed by grid costs and some equipment costs, but not the energy source. So, as you said, it's good to have a mix, the proper mix. We will have the nuclear power plant that will go down, will be shut off, yeah? We will have gas prices maybe not in the right moment, because, yes, if we wouldn't have any delays in turning on the gas power plants 1 year ago, 2 years ago, that power plant would be much more profitable. The energy cost would be much more lower. But now putting something on this market right now, it is what it is. So energy is volatile, and we need to have a good energy mix so we can play with what's happening geopolitically, with what's happening with the price. So I think the outcome is that it is good that we have some good palette of projects that we can select and install. It is good that we have a proper mix, and we need to make sure that the good projects can be permitted fast, don't have bottlenecks from the authorities, because this is also, the investments went very low because the authorities didn't give enough support, or sometimes actually were against permits. Yeah, and this is, so is it a common goal to commission cheap projects fast or not? This is also something that should be on the public discussion, not only in rooms, in meetings, and in associations.
It is something that we should push in public conversation. Please, Loukas, you wanted to add something? Please.
I think I wanted to add that, first of all, the gas situation, we think that impacts also solar PV. So if it stays high, then it impacts capture prices. But as I said in the beginning, we don't expect this to be another Russia. So it's more, it depends on the damage that the Qatar LNG facilities may have and for how long the situation is going to take resolve. But we're not going to have a permanent loss of capacity as we had with the Russian invasion. And also what I wanted to add is like we're seeing these huge solar pipelines are evident in other markets, and I think what we see is like we see a change in the business models, right? So from the develop and flip model, what we call like a lot of developers just getting the projects in a ready-to-build base and flipping them, we're seeing a move away from that, and we're seeing more sophisticated business model, more investors looking for the value to be generated more on an IPP perspective in the long term with sophisticated route to market and merchant strategies rather than this simple, I have a project, I have a permit, can I sell it to somebody?
Great, thank you. We will take one question from the audience. So, if any of you would like to say something or ask something, please.
First of all, congratulations for one of the most professional and informative debates which took place in this space for the last years. I'd like to make 3 comments. Number 1, we should replace consumption by demand. Demand is consumption minus self-production, and self-production is now sensitive. So we should not talk consumption when we are generators, we should talk demand. This is number 1. The other 2 comments will relate to very dark clouds which are coming over the sector. The first one has been mentioned by Loukas Botsis, mentioning the pressure on the CO2 prices. In fact, in 2 weeks' time, the leaders of Europe will meet in Brussels to discuss a possible reform of the electricity market design. Already there are many political voices which are saying that renewables make windfall profits by taking the marginal price, the closing price of the day-ahead market, when their cost is different. And they are proposing practically splitting the market or taking out from the market closing price the CO2 price, which is practically not going to affect only through negative prices the renewable generators, but also the market closing prices might go down. So we are all looking now to what will happen in Brussels 18th and 19th of March, when practically the state leaders will discuss whether they will separate the 2 pieces. The utility industry said, don't do it now. We have to invest 5 trillion in the coming decade, and we need predictability for investors. If you are going to play those games now, the money will not come to the energy sector. And another dark cloud is called Made in Europe. So all of a sudden, we woke up and said we should not buy from other geographies, but we should buy only what is manufactured in Europe. And now we want to amend the procurement directives and so on. And all of a sudden, the industry, the energy industry, is in the middle. Because at the end, if we apply this Made in Europe, the electricity will be more expensive. The equipment needed will have serious supply chain issues. The equipment needed would be much more expensive and much more scarce. And at the end, energy will be more expensive, and consumers will be looking to our industry saying, you are giving us a more expensive energy. And we're saying, yes, but you wanted it. You told us not to buy inverters from that geography, but to buy inverters from our countries. Hey, in our countries, it is more expensive. So now, once again, the energy industry tries to nuance, make it made with Europe, made it with partnerships and so on, but don't push made in Europe to the bottom, because this is going to fire back and the image of the energy industry is going to suffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice words towards ourselves and also for the great insights you share with us. If any of you, a last comment before we closing this session, please look up.
I just want to make a comment on the ETS point. I think it's the Italian government that brought forward the Decreto Bolletto, I think, but forgive my Italian if it's wrong. And it's about, you're right, about decoupling the power price with the carbon price. I think this is a real risk, but we don't see it very likely that the EU will accept that, because this puts the whole ETS scheme to the bin, basically. If a country can do that, then this is very against all the energy transition. However, there is a real material risk. We see, like as I said, we see Germany thinking about it. We see it in GB with there is a lot of net zero skepticism across Europe, and governments they want to take measures that they say will support the industry, but I'm not sure this is if this will support the industry or if it's just a populist measure. However, on solar specifically, solar and batteries are technologies that do make sense, and they are at a cost that makes sense to have it in the system. Definitely there are things to consider and there are risks in the market, but especially for solar, if we're talking about offshore wind, or if we're talking about floating offshore wind or this type of technologies, then definitely we're very, very skeptical as well at Baringa. But thinking about solar, it's a technology that we think it's success going forward, with the bumps, of course.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll take another comment. Please, 2 minutes, not more than that.
Yes, thank you. My name is Cosmin Dragoia. I'm from Finacon. I was hearing earlier Mr. Moise saying that hybrid projects are much more efficient than standalone BESS projects, which in principle this is true. But according to the current legislation, if you operate a renewable energy power plant and you want to add storage, the NRES says that the total power of the combined project, or the hybrid project, is cumulative between the power plant and the storage. And we have this situation. So for example, 5 megawatts power plant, you want to add 20 megawatts hour storage with 5 megawatts power, and NRES says you have a total power of 10 megawatts and you have to go to capacity allocation. So at this stage, we are facing this situation right now with different projects. So
Yes,
when we want to add storage, they accumulate the power of the storage, not the capacity, the power of the storage with the power of the power plant, saying that you might inject energy with both in the same time, which is crazy, but this is what happens.
Thank you. I think it's something that you mentioned earlier, but please.
Yes. It's not really correct, because you have to make the difference between installed power and requested power for evacuation to the grid. So no, you shouldn't add up the powers. If you do not ask for an increase in the value of your grid connection permit on the output to the grid, you don't have this problem. This problem was solved, I think, a couple of years ago. No.
We had this discussion just last week, both with Rețele Electrice and with other distributors. And again, for the example, 5 megawatts power plant, we want to add storage with 5 megawatts power and 20 megawatts hour capacity. And they said that the power is cumulated. So they will consider a 10 megawatts hybrid project. And they told us that we need to go to power to capacity allocation.
Thank you for raising the question up. Please, maybe we'll have time, a couple of minutes to discuss a little bit more. That would be all for the session. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for agreeing to talk with us. Starting from the latest edition of Energynomics PV Report 2026. Maybe 1 minute, try to summarize a little bit more what happened here. It will help me to write the follow-up article. We have a huge pipeline. Everybody agrees that a small portion of that will come to fruition in relevant period of time, which is not that bad because we are in the position to select the best projects. The market and all the players should be more and more adapted, more sophisticated, because the market moves into this direction. So the perspectives are very foggy. For the investors, it is very difficult to take a decision, although they are called to make decisions fast. And maybe this is not a market for small players anymore. Small, unsophisticated players with not credible records enough will have a very little space to move in this current market in relation with the banks, in relation with other players in the field. That would be what I understood. Please, the comments are starting right now. In 10 minutes, I will be back with Sebastian on the stage for another topic. Thank you. Thank you very much.